So this week we're going to talk about found objects and natural elements. So obviously, found objects can be anything, right? They could be a pencil if you find it, right? It could be a leaf if you found it, or an acorn. But we're dividing those into also two more things. So natural elements and man-made. So when you think of natural elements, think of grass. Think of anything that really comes from nature, right? Anything that's produced in nature. So it can be rocks, it can be stones, it can be leaves, it can be trees. Anything like that is a natural element. Man-made is exactly what it sounds like. It's made by a man or a computer, right? So thinking about those toothbrushes that are down below, those don't necessarily come from natural elements. Some of them might have portions of natural elements in them, but they are mostly man-made. So we're going to be looking at objects today and how artists use them. And that's actually our objective, identifying ways in which artists use found materials. We also are going to create an artwork of found materials of your choice, man-made or natural. So this is an artist that we're going to look at, and if you look and identify some of the things that he is using, it looks like right off the bat, I see a cat. Second thing I see is all this metal, right? So when I tend to look at an artwork, I identify all the things that I see first before I even internalize any of that information. So I see things like nails, screws, bolts, hardware. It looks like anything that you would use to attach something to that is made out of metal is on this cat. Even looking at the lower part of the cat where there are his fur, he kind of is molding these screws and nails to be to look like fur, right? So he's kind of bending them, welding them. So we are going to look at ways in which artists use materials, and we're going to create an artwork using found materials. So the first artist that we're going to look at is Stephen Palmer, and he uses found objects, and he mostly does fish. He uses different things like wood, such as like this. This is actually a crutch. So when you break a leg, you might need to use a crutch. So he's sawed it in half and kind of rearranged it to make it look interesting, but using the top part for the mouth and then the handle to kind of close off that shape. I also see things like chess pieces or game pieces here. Lots of games in this one. A top, maybe some game boards, a dice, a block. Looks like that could be a checker piece. Chess pieces, little game pieces here, or possibly toys. He even has a ginger box that I've seen represented in a lot of his works, just looking at similar and familiar shapes to create. He also does use a screwdriver often to put that in there. If we look at this, and we look at these black lines, I want you to look at those black lines. They might be wire, or they might be zip ties. I think they might be wire, because I'm noticing a little loop on that white part of the McCormick box. So for him, he tends to glue things down, right? If you look at these, they're not just placed there, they're definitely either screwed or glued. But if you look at the top of this, I don't see any screws because that would imply that he was using that. But it looks possibly like glue in this way that he's attaching. Same thing with these. He's probably like attaching these with glue. This might be wire that he's using almost for a design aesthetic, but also to keep these objects inside that shape and form. So I have attached, if you go to the website here and find this link, I've attached it in the Google Slides to see his work. But just reading this, Stephen Palmer was born and raised by artists, so both parents were artists. One of his earliest memories is being with his mom while she painted the ocean. Even though over the years he has worked with a variety of materials and inspirations, Palmer recently came back to the ocean in the form of humorous mixed media fish. So again, you're noticing like the similarities that I said, the wires here, the screwdriver, that kind of spice box. This one he's got aspirin, same kind of pieces of checkerboard, so he must realize those are really good teeth, so I gotta find as many of those I can and use them as teeth. So using kind of similar materials over and over to get the idea of this fish. So again, if you want to view the website, you can click on that link in the PowerPoint. Next up, so that was Stephen Palmer. We're going to look at Brian Mock, which we saw earlier. He's an artist that mostly uses upcycled materials, mostly silver, things that he could weld together. And when I'm talking about welding, I'm thinking about you need a hot flame or some sort of hot tool to adhere two pieces of metal together. So welding is kind of his thing to attach these. So he's got lots of different things here. Looks like nuts and bolts again, but I see spoons, like those circular things look like spoons. I also see forks, like the tops of the forks. But creating form, such as this human being, out of these metals. So Brian Mock is an upcycled revolutionist who is making incredible sculptures out of reclaimed materials. He sees more material than just junk. So really using what he's found and creating with it. Again, here's his website. If you go on the PowerPoint, you can find it. The talented artist grew up in Portland, Oregon. He started to draw pictures at a young age, and as he grew older, he began painting and wood carving. So painting 2D, wood carving, starting to get into that three-dimensional area, more sculpture. In 1990s, he developed his passion for sculpting with recycled metal. So sculpting with recycled metal. Then he taught himself how to weld, and that was all he needed. With his imagination, he was able to make the most amazing pieces of art. Some sculptures include robots, animals, people, cars, and other symbolic and custom objects that, besides decorative, can also be functional too. Over the years, his technique has improved and evolved even more. So as artists, and as you also will know as an artist, the more you use a type of material or medium, you become better and better at it. Skilled, some would say. So after a while, he started exploring these materials and knowing how they worked and creating these sculptures out of them. So looking at these, just finding some differences, some similarities in these works, noticing that these are maybe more colorful. This one does have color in it, but it seems like it's more about the tools that he's being used here to create this form, right? Using them all together as a whole instead of piece by piece. Here it looks like there's more focus on the individual objects when they're together. So just thinking about those two, and then using this as a way to look at their work. I put those links in there as well. You have two tasks. You're going to look at their work, and you're going to fill out the Google form. So I have a Google form attached here. That's for class time. And then for your work this week, you guys are going to create an animal out of found or natural objects. You're going to post your work, and we will talk about it next week. I look forward to seeing your artwork, and enjoy your week.